Good evening. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. If anybody would like an agenda, they are, I believe, on a stool right outside the door. Rick Foss, would you please stand and lead us in the pledge? And Mike, I'll let you lead this off with the Build Grant project introduction.
Yes, thank you for allowing some time at the beginning of the meeting, because we want to make sure that we came to the council and let you know where we're at with the planning for the Build Grant project. This is going to happen, and I think it's going to be a great improvement all the way around. But we have certain steps that we have to go through. Pretty much we've been in the design phase. We're ready to break out of that with some public hearings. And to talk a little bit more about that is Ernie Martin from DOT. DOT, very fortunate for us, has agreed to be the project manager. And so Ernie is leading that effort. And before I sit down, I just want to make sure, again, to let everyone know that a big part of this success of the city receiving this $7 million grant through the efforts of Senator Susan Collins. It probably wouldn't have happened without her help at the federal level. So, Ernie, you can tell us a little bit about the process that we're going to be faced with here in the next few months.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me here. Probably you've all seen a copy of this. This is the Goral-Palmer study that was an application that's based off the Build Grant, based off the scope that we are following and that we've started. It's a good project. It's going to have its hurdles, going to have its, been around a while. So just from that standpoint, it's going to start very slow. We're in that process right now. On June 26th, we're going to have an open house right here from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to have some draft plans. We're going to send out notification to everybody that's within the project limits to get them to come during that 2-hour window. We'll have plenty of bodies here from a lot of areas and expertise. We'll have plans up on the wall so any individual business owner or property owner can come in and ask any questions. It's a fact-finding mission in my book. I've done it on many projects, and it's important to me to hear the public. That's why if you get notification, if you don't get notification, if you're just an interested citizen, by all means come and ask questions of the people that will be here. It's very important to me as an outsider. I'll call myself an outsider. I was not part of the planning process. I unfortunately have read this document through and through. It's about as boring as you can get whenever you read any kind of document. It is up on the city's website. So if you have not read it, it's linked right into the city's website to get a handle on what the actual scope of this project is. The Build Grant application was based off safety and mobility. Those are the two key factors as we work through this project, that both of those get met because of the funding that's associated with it. Other than that, I'll have more information on June 26th. Mike has all my contact information, so if any questions come up, we're going to have a website started on June 26th. We'll be here. We'll have a person here taking information, actually physically signing people up with that web address. So once you sign up for that, anything related to the Waterville Downtown project, if we post it, the city post it, or Colby post it, you will get notification of what it is that we posted. Just another way to outreach people. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Lawrence. Brian Lawrence is from Federal Highway, the Main Division. He will talk a little bit about the US DOT agreement that he's developing on their behalf.
Thanks, Ernie, and thanks for allowing me to be here. Congratulations on getting the Build Grant from US DOT. And thanks also to Maine DOT for administering this project. I just wanted to kind of update you on the status of this grant process. It was announced in December 2018 that Waterville had received this grant. We've been working between the City of Waterville, Maine DOT, and Federal Highway, myself, on developing this grant agreement. What has happened is in March, we got pre-approval to start expending funds on the design. So those funds would be eligible as long as they follow federal processes. And now we're finalizing the draft, and I just submitted the draft. It has to go through several layers. It goes through me. It goes through our Federal Highway headquarters. It goes through the Secretary of Transportation, US DOT. And I submitted that yesterday, so hopefully we'll be hearing, I can't guarantee any timeframes, but we should be, the wheels should be rolling at this point. And that's about it.
Great.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Roger Kraus from Kennebec Water District. Kennebec Water District's work will be the first, I think, construction work we see out in the street, and Roger can give us a brief intro to that.
Thank you, Mike. So thanks for allowing me to spend a few minutes in front of you today. Roger Kraus. I've been the general manager since February 2018 at the Water District. And as might be expected, there's some water mains out in the street here. Much of it hasn't been replaced for more than 100 years. So we don't want to have to be tearing up the nice new pavement or the sidewalks to replace water main, 5 or 10 years from now. We want to do it before the construction project happens downtown. So we've hired a consultant, Wright Pierce Engineers, to do some work for us. On the next slide, there's an outline of the project area highlighted in a couple different shades of yellow there. So down Main Street, Common Street, Temple Street, Appleton, Hathaway, we're going to be replacing all that main in those streets. And then on Front Street, where we actually have a dual main running down that street, and we're going to switch the services from the old 1903 main to the 1971 main. So not as much disruption on that street, but significant disruption on Main Street for this project. So we hope to be starting next, we're starting the design now, working with DOT. We've already had one meeting with them. We're going to partner in that same public meeting that Ernie spoke about on June 26th. We're going to be here also to get information from the public, particularly business owners, property owners along the corridor. So if we go to the next slide, just timeline, we're going to do the design between now and the end of December, and then put it out to bid December, January, with construction happen ideally through 2020. It might go into early 2021, just depends on how things go. We're very preliminary on stuff right now, so but our goal is to get it done in 2020, but some of them might carry over. And just some of the challenges on the next slide there. Just coordinating the project with DOT. We don't want to design our infrastructure to be in conflict with what DOT is coming in to do with the subsequent paving and sidewalk work. Obviously, there's going to be traffic disruptions while we're doing the construction, so we're going to work to maintain traffic flow and business access, so all the businesses will be able to have their walk-in traffic, and then changing water service from some of the water service now comes in behind the buildings, and we need it to come in from the main street, the main drag, and that may require some internal plumbing changes within those buildings. And then some of the buildings don't have fire service now, and we want to achieve that. So whatever we leave, whatever we're done with, meets the needs for the buildings for the next 20 years, as best as we can estimate anyway. So we're going to work through those challenges as well. And I think I had just one more slide there, just to give you a sense of the age of the pipes in the ground. We've got our down Main Street, 1903, and then some of the newer stuff, 1905. There's some old pipe there that needs to be replaced, and we're going to address that during this period. So that's what the high-level overview of our project. Contact me anytime if you have questions or concerns. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger. So the next key point with this project is June 26th, as Ernie mentioned, right in this room will be a public forum, public hearing for anyone and everyone to come in and ask questions and try to find out more either about their specific building or location on the street. Okay?
All right.
And with the project updates I send you weekly or bi-weekly, I'll try to keep you updated too on what's going on.
Thank you for coming and giving us an update, and thank you all for your involvement. This is going to be a huge project for this community, obviously, so thank you. As was stated before, a special thanks to Senator Collins' office, without whom this money wouldn't be coming here. The perhaps hundreds of man-hours that were put in by Colby College staff to help write this grant. It might look like if anyone was down in downtown Hollowell for the last couple years, these are big projects, but if anyone has been down there in the last few days or last week or so, you'll see that they're certainly worthwhile in the long run. And so thanks to all of the partners for making this happen, and thanks for coming tonight and giving us the update. Next on the agenda, we have a disclosure of a conflict of interest. Is there anybody who has a conflict of interest with a vote they might take tonight? That'll be no. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Could I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unfinished business, Order 84, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An order providing for sale of city property, 15 South Grove Street.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion?
We asked at the last meeting for Bill Lee and I to suggest some wording going forward. So that's what you see, especially in Section E of what I just handed out. So what Bill is recommending is, should this come up again, where the city council considers selling a foreclosed property back to the former owner, that it be sold with an amount of 150% increase over what's due. It's so really, to give you a mathematical example, if $3,000 were due, then the city would be asking for $4,500 in order to complete that sale. I guess our recommendation for tonight is that we act on the recommendation or the proposal that you saw 2 weeks ago in terms of an amount for this particular property at 15 South Grove Street, but that decision obviously is yours, if you want to apply this now or going forward with other cases.
Mike, will this be on the agenda to adopt this language the next meeting?
Yes. Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Because it is an ordinance, so we'll have to come back with an amendment.
Based on the discussions we had at our last meeting, I would recommend the council just move on this as was discussed previously.
Sorry, the one question that I had, though, did we have a conversation about he wasn't part of the homestead, and we wanted to have him make sure that he filled out that paperwork? Is
Oh,
that
yes.
in this? Is that, I don't see it in here specifically, so I don't know if we say yes to this, then he doesn't, it's not a requirement?
It's not here, but I can tell you for a fact that we've told him, you need to fill out the homestead. We'll help him do that. And so going forward for next year, there's no question he will have applied and will be eligible.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
If you miss the April 1st date for applying, you have to wait until the next
Right.
year.
I just wanted on file that he actually did it,
Yeah.
because that'll help
Oh, yes.
in the long run.
Is there any further discussion by the council? Any questions from the public? Patty, can I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Coelho?
Yes.
Counselor Tate?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on, we have ordinance 87, 2019.
An ordinance providing for amendment to the licenses and permits ordinance, be it enacted by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers as follows, that the licenses and permits ordinance be amended to include a reference to the seasonal concession policy as shown on the attached.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Could I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Coelho?
Yes.
Counselor Tate?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Ordinance 94, 2019.
An ordinance providing for amendment to the zoning ordinance, being enacted by the City Council of the City of Waterville, acting as municipal officers as follows, that zoning ordinance Article 3 definitions is amended as shown on the following page. Strikeout indicates language to be stricken. Underlined language is an addition.
Move to adopt.
And second.
And discussion from the council or questions from the council? Questions from the public? Okay, could I get a roll call?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayhew?
Yes.
Counselor Coelho?
Yes.
Counselor Tate?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Ordinance 93, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
An ordinance providing for amendment to zoning.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the council?
Yes, I believe we wanted to make some changes to the proposed language. So, as I recall, we were going to keep Section 1 and Section 2 and possibly make some changes to Section 3.
Counselor Thomas, if it's helpful, I have the proposed amended language. If
You-
you'd like, I could read through the whole thing, and then everyone knows what's being discussed.
Well, why don't we do that?
So do you want to put this amendment on the floor, and then we can move to amend by substitution?
Can we hear it first?
Could someone just say, could I get a motion
You
to
really
amend?
can't discuss it till it's on
Yeah,
the floor.
Could I get a motion,
so-
motion to amend?
Motion to amend.
Second.
Okay.
Patty?
Thank you. Be it enacted by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers that Appendix A zoning, Article 2, Section 2.1.1, the official zoning map dated April 6, 1999, and the written description of zoning boundaries dated July 6, 1971, be and hereby are amended as follows. The revised conditions of the contract zone transitional district for 129 Silver Street, Assessor Parcel 38-137R. Number 1, the property shall be used only as a residence or a professional office. Number 2, the office shall have no vehicular entrance or exit on Wilson Park. All traffic to and from the office shall use the existing driveway on Silver Street. Number 3, screening. A compact hedge to grow 6 feet or more shall be planted and maintained along the property line in common with Assessor Parcel 38-139, currently a vacant lot behind 129 Silver Street. The portion of the parking lot abutting Wilson Park shall be screened as approved by the Planning Board with options to include hedges, fences, walls, street trees, flowering shrubs, and a combination of those. The purpose of this screening is to discourage clients of the firm from parking on Wilson Park and to obscure the view of the parking lot from Wilson Park.
Discussion on the amendment.
You want to go first?
Counselor, go.
Yeah, I think this is a really great compromise for Golden Pond and the residents, obviously, that abut this property. I have looked at the ordinance, and I have read certain things about this ordinance, and hearing the testimony that we had at the last council meeting between the residents and the business of Golden Pond, I believe that with these things that the planning board has done and with what the council has analyzed and scrutinized with what is on paper in front of us, I believe it's a great compromise that benefits both parties. I do have some experience with having a financial planner of my own and knowing and having friends in financial planning places where this business certainly has, it's a clientele that's very aged clientele. We're talking about people that are planning for their futures. It's usually by appointment only. There's not a lot of traffic flow in and out of the business. Very limited and by appointment, and it's I really believe having Golden Pond been a 16-year residence in this neighborhood and been a great neighbor. By the testimony that we've heard, I believe this is a great compromise, and I really believe we should go forward with this.
Councilor Bofia?
Definitely, there was some great discussion last meeting, and I think that he provided a lot of feedback and a lot of background to the situation. And I think that the proposal that was put before us, I believe again, it's like Councilor Mayhew indicated, it's a great compromise, and I believe we should take it into consideration and move it forward.
Any other comments or discussion from the council? Okay, we will open it up to the public. We just ask that you come to the podium, state your name, tell us where you live, and you have about 3 minutes to speak. The timer will go off. Obviously, we'll give you a little leeway, but we'll try to signal you just to wrap up your thoughts. Thank you.
Hello, Gail Carlson, 5 Wilson Park. I spoke last time. I just want to say for the record that the residents of Wilson Park are opposed to Ordinance 93, 2019, and I would just respond respectfully to Council Member Mayhew that actually we don't benefit, we lose. We are losers in this. As I mentioned last time, when the same project came up last time, the planning board sided with the homeowners, and to my mind, no one has explained what's changed this time compared to last time, such that the business gets its way. The planning board, there actually was almost no just deliberation at all in front of the planning board, and they really did sort of kick it to you. And also the vote in the planning board was 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 2 abstentions, so it wasn't a majority anyway, and it certainly wasn't unanimous. The proposed changes especially to the building, are permanent, obviously, and it's very large. We also feel that it's somewhat contradictory that everyone says, there's not a lot of traffic to this business, which is true, and Mr. Bonacci did say that he only has maybe 6 or 7 clients a day or whatever coming there, but yet need to have nearly doubling of the building, which is, if you've seen the plans, is quite large, 2-story. It will definitely show above any sort of hedge, and it will be big enough that it will prevent this property from becoming a residence again, and also it will mean that if any other businesses come in after Golden Pond, that it's going to be a larger business, and we can't say that there won't be tons of traffic coming into that business in the future. So I would say again that I think the change will alter the nature of the street and may very well affect our property values, which was an opinion that also was shared by Jim Lynch and Doug Frame, who fought the previous version. There are many restrictions on this property, and the only approach here isn't like necessarily have to be lift them all. So I don't see this as a compromise. And there certainly are things that we don't want to see change to this property. So just for the record, we oppose Ordinance 93, 2019.
Anybody else from the public? Okay, is the council, yeah?
In the underlying zone, this is a contract zone, but the underlying zone is the transitional zone. And this property is actually much more restricted than the transitional zone. And one of the things in the transitional zone, and of course this is subjective, is that no development should hurt the residential character of the neighborhood. Of course, who decides what that means? But in the rest of the transitional zone, besides this zone, things like banks and restaurants and the like are allowed, correct? So whoever came up with that original language for the transitional zone apparently did not feel that banks or restaurants would destroy the residential character of the neighborhood. And the proposed use of this property is still much more restrictive than the rest of the transitional zone. And, you know, I understand the future concerns. You never know what's going to come next, but you also never know who's going to move in next door if it's a house and what they're going to do. You know, I mean, this is a business that's open during the week, basically 9 to 5. I do live across the street from it. I can say that so far it has not destroyed the residential character of the neighborhood. And so, you know, I just think that despite the concerns of the neighborhood, this property, yes, it abuts Wilson Park, but it's really on Silver Street. And there are a lot of similar businesses already on Silver Street that abut this property. And so I will be voting in favor of the change this evening.
Are you ready for a vote? Patty, can I get a roll call, please? Oh, wait, this is on, we have to get the, we're going to vote on the amendment first.
Right.
All in favor of the amendment? Can I get a motion to move as amended?
So moved.
And second.
Okay, and now we will take a roll call.
Yes. Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Bofia?
Yes.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Mayhew?
Yes.
Counselor Coelho?
Yes.
Counselor Tate?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
The vote is 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, we will move on to new business. We're at Resolution 96, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for issuance of a victualer's license to Italia doing business as Lion's Den Tavern.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is there anybody here from Lion's Den? Would you like to come tell us what you're doing? There's no pressure, Jen, but if you're here. I mean, it sounds very exciting to me.
It is exciting.
Yes.
Yes, so we are reopening under a new name and a new concept, Lion's Den Tavern. We will have Main Street, and then on the concourse side, there will be a downstairs with a bar downstairs, and mostly it'll be used as a function room, but also it'll be overflow, and on Fridays and Saturdays, we'll be able to have, the reason we have the entertainment special amusement permit, so we can have things like comedy night or
Awesome.
small performances. So, and we're
Fantastic.
excited.
Exciting.
That is exciting.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. All in favor? Moving on to Resolution 97, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for issuance of a liquor license to Italia doing business as Lion's Den Tavern.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Resolution 98, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for issuance of a special amusement permit to Italia doing business as Lion's Den Tavern.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Resolution 99, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for authorizing the renewal of liquor licenses expiring between July 1, 2019 and September 30, 2019.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Resolution 100, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second?
All in, oh, all in favor? That's right. Moving fast here.
A resolution providing for ratification of collective bargaining agreement, Police Patrol Officers Unit.
Move to adopt.
And second?
Is there any discussion?
It's been over a year, but we finally got there, and with a lot of help from Bobby, our Human Resource Director, and counselors who did attend, especially Counselor Coelho. So we got there, and I think both sides, of course, didn't get everything they wanted, but enough so that both sides, I think, got to the end and felt it was a fair deal.
I think so. I think the city had been dealing with it for a year and a half. I think we all came to a compromise. The police union came to a compromise. I think it worked out in our favor,
Yeah.
really. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I just want to thank Councilor Coelho for heading that on and taking the time to go and work with city officials to get that deal together. He did a fantastic job negotiating that contract, so just want to thank him for that.
Appreciate it.
And I want to also resound that as well. Council Coelho has done a really good job in discussion with him and through the police union with the work that he did behind the scenes and with other administrators here, of course. I believe this is a really good contract with our police union and, of course, the police department as a whole. Having a godson that is a police officer, I have a special attachment to the so-called thin blue line that a lot of residents are aware of. Their work is very dangerous, and of course we were looking for a compromise here, and I think this was hammered out in the most reasonable fashion that can be, and both sides going away happy with what we see as a great compromise that does, as stated, it does benefit the city as a whole. So I'm very much appreciative for the efforts on your part and the administration.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor? Resolution 101, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for engineering for the concourse redesign project.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion.
Where's, no, go ahead, sorry.
I just wanted to say that I participated in the screening of the two final top candidates. We had a good discussion with both of them. I think they could both do an excellent job, and we chose the cheaper one that seemed to produce all of the, have the qualifications, have the commitment, have the staff, and be ready to take on the job. So I heartily endorse continuing with this contract.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your time spent on that, too.
Somebody else is paying for this, right?
Yeah, Colby's.
I like that. Okay.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to thank Winifred, too, for her involvement on this, and I do believe that this engineering concept will be very beneficial to helping alleviate, again, the parking element that is in and around the concourse and for the businesses and for the whole city of Waterville. I do, again, want to thank Colby College for stepping up and helping with this amount to help for the engineering cost of this as usual. I think it's, again, another win-win situation for everybody.
I just wanted to add that in the course of discussing the development of the project scope, we made sure to emphasize that the pieces of the project be broken down. So should costs come in that are higher than something we can complete in the short term, we would have plans ready when the additional funding is available.
Great.
Great, very good.
And I also want to thank Nick, our city engineer, for all his work on this.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
All right, all in favor? Where are we here? Resolution 102, 2019.
A resolution providing for amendment to electronic communication policy. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers that the attached electronic communications and file retention policy be amended as shown on the attached.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And for those in the audience that want to know what this is just a revision to our communication policy that ensures that any city officials that are discussing city business via email do have those emails go through a city server, so there is a public record of that.
Not just elected officials, but any city employee as well.
Any discussion? All in favor? The item that was here as a discussion item is no longer on for the agenda for tonight. That has, they're going to be working with speaking directly with our broker, our real estate broker on that. And what are you doing?
Didn't
We have a couple items that we have to waive cloture for.
Yeah.
Ask council if you would, to waive closure so that we can discuss the item of passing around regarding the airport.
I'd make a motion to waive cloture. Is there a number to this resolution, Patty?
It will be 103.
Resolution 103-2019.
Second.
Shall I read it, or?
Please.
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, we have to accept the
Waive
cloture?
cloture, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, all
yeah.
in favor of
Yes,
waiving
thank you.
cloture?
A resolution providing for authorization for transfer of funds airport. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers that the city manager be authorized to sign the attached agreement for transfer so that unspent entitlement funds for LaFleur Airport be approved for transfer to Wiscasset Airport.
Move to adopt.
It's second.
Michael?
This is something that happens, well, I say fairly often. It's happened once before in the time I've been here, and I think that time we got funds from another airport that didn't spend theirs in time. So Randy can talk a lot more about that, because he's had communications directly with the Federal Aviation Authority, FAA. They're asking us to do this because we're not able at this time to spend these monies, which are called entitlement monies. They're basically two categories of funds that we get from the federal government for our airport. One is entitlement, the other is discretionary. The discretionary usually involve big sums, the amount to resurface the entire runways and things like that. So discretionary is usually large amounts. The entitlements are, I think, $150 a year. If you can use them, fine. If you can't, they get reallocated. So it's Randy's recommendation very strongly for us to go through and see that this transfer is accomplished so that Wiscasset gets some of these unspent funds. And in the future, it could very well come back to us.
I have a question. Why didn't we spend the money?
That's a long story I'm going to need help with. It had to do with our snow removal equipment, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The long and short of it is we had 3 projects with the FAA last year, which included a grubbing and grading project, which we have pretty much come to completion on, a wildlife assessment, which we are in the process of. It's a year-long process. And the third one was a snow removal equipment acquisition, that being a large snow blower. Well, we hit a few bumps in the road with the FAA on the approval process, specifically within the Buy American preference requirements. Caterpillar, who bid in on it, said, we can meet the requirement. The FAA drilled down, found out that it wasn't quite absolutely what they were looking for in terms of the requirement. So that's slowed us down. And that was about a $400,000 project in and of itself. Last year, Wiscasset had $150,000 of expiring entitlement funds. We were transferred that money from Wiscasset to Waterville in anticipation of us completing all 3 of these projects in 2018. Since that third project was not completed, we did not utilize all of those funds. Therefore, we find ourselves in almost a similar position of having extra entitlement funding that we cannot spend until we are approved a project. So we would in turn lose $108,000 of what would be our money What happens with the entitlement funding is that this is all funding that comes from airline ticket taxes and fuel taxes. It gets broken up into each region and then into each state. If the states do not utilize all the funds appropriated to that state, it goes back to the region. Last year, we didn't want to lose those funds in Maine, so Wiscasset transferred it to us in anticipation of us using it. This year, we would have already been scheduled to give them back 150. Otherwise, if we choose not to, then it goes back to the region. So that's the long and short of it.
Are you still going to need that piece of equipment?
Absolutely.
Is it going to cost us money down the road?
Meaning?
Like, are we going to get some of these entitlement money
No.
back?
So essentially, we, having borrowed that money from Wiscasset, the agreement with Wiscasset is that we were going to be paying it back this year anyway. So we borrowed it so it wouldn't expire. Now we have excess because we didn't spend it, so we're giving it back. We get $150,000 every year. I meet with the FAA on June 11th, which is coming right up, and we'll be discussing how we're going to proceed forward with this project and projects of other things.
Buy American, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mega.
I completely agree with the Buy American. Unfortunately, the process in which the paperwork goes through is very bureaucratic and has been difficult. So even though we know that it meets, we're having a hard time getting it through.
So we are getting money next year besides what we're giving back to Wisconsin. Right?
Yes.
We are, okay.
Yeah. So we still have money in our coffers for projects right now. So on June 11th, we'll find out exactly what the projects will entitle.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy.
All right.
All right, any discussion on this item before we take a vote? All in favor?
And one more waiver of closure. We found out about this one this morning. Yes, we did. And it's some really associated with some very exciting news with the sale of the Lockwood Mills buildings.
Let's move to waive closure first.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's the number on this one, Patty?
104, 2019.
Move to waive closure to add Resolution 104, 2019 to the agenda.
And second.
All in favor?
Shall I read it?
Yep.
Please.
A resolution providing for authorization for assignment of Lockwood Mills TIF Credit Enhancement Agreement. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council, acting as municipal officers, that the city authorizes and approves the ultimate assignment of the Lockwood Mills TIF Credit Enhancement Agreement to North River Lockwood 1 LLC, and further authorizes the city manager to execute and deliver in the name of and on behalf of the city such assignment, agreements, or amendments to the credit enhancement agreement as the city manager determine are reasonable and necessary to complete the assignment.
Move to adopt.
And second.
And this is just a pretty, we've done this before on this actually same TIF and building. This is just kind of somebody else is going to buy the building. We're moving the benefits that are already attached to that building to the new owner so it doesn't stick to the old owner.
Correct.
right. The CMP and Martin's buildings are being sold, and before the transaction can happen, the city needs to transfer or authorize the reassignment of the credit enhancement agreement that's associated with the TIF for Hathaway. Even though we're not involved directly in the transaction, we approved the CEA, the credit enhancement agreement, to begin with. And so for the current owner to transfer that CEA to the new owner, we actually have to give our approval to that too, even though we're not a direct party to that. But because we gave the CEA to the current owner sells to a new person, we have to just say, yes, we're okay with that assignment of the CEA, which happened years ago. And for them to complete the sale, because it's pretty exciting that the Martins and CMP buildings will be under new ownership. And when we met with them this morning, Councilor Thomas was there, Mayor Isgro was there. You know, we heard their initial plans for the two buildings, and it certainly is very, very good news, not just for the Main Street downtown Waterville, but the city and the region as well.
Great.
No. One question.
Yeah.
In this, it says we give you the authorization to make agreements and amendments to the credit enhancement agreement. Now, you can't change it structurally without coming back to us, right?
No, that's
You can't
right.
change
I
the,
certainly couldn't change the term
okay.
or
Just making
the
sure.
reimbursement amount. Yeah.
Thank you.
What's the CA?
Unless it's reasonable and necessary to complete the assignment, that's what it says.
I'd be coming back to you, I'm sure.
That's why I'm like, wait a minute.
Who decides that?
People have different ideas of what's reasonable and what's not.
Correct.
What was the CA amount again, if you remember?
The CEA
Yeah.
that was provided for Hathaway in the very beginning was structured in kind of a unique way. So when the Hathaway Mill building was first developed, the city provided a 75% return over a 25-year period. But the terms of that was that the first 10 years only would be at 75%. The next 15 years would be at a 1% reduction every year. So year 11, it was 74% return, 73, 72, all the way down to 60% return when you get to year 25.
So which year are we on now? Which year are we on?
We are in year 12, I believe.
12, 20?
Yeah. Now, what we believe is going to happen, and we heard it this morning, is that the new owners, or the owners of the new buildings, the owners of the Martins and C&P buildings, are going to approach the city for a new TIF. The existing TIF for Hathaway stays in place, credit enhancement agreement stays in place. We talk with them, they talk with us about a separate TIF for the other two buildings because of the huge amount of investment they need to make there. Okay?
But that would be a separate conversation.
It would be a totally separate
Very
conversation.
separate conversation over a period of a few months, but I think, just to give you an idea on the timing, I think that this council would probably be asked in August to make a decision about a TIF for this property. That's what we heard. But we'll have plenty of time to go over and ask questions and make sure everyone understands.
Yeah.
Great.
Sounds good.
On specifically this particular resolution, is everybody ready for a vote? All in favor? Great. Counselor updates. Any counselor updates? Counselor Bofia.
Some exciting news out of Augusta. We're hoping that it will remain that way. Representative White indicated to us that it looks like revenue sharing could be increasing from 2% to 3%, and with a 3 and a 375 the following year increase as well. So there will also be expansion of homestead exemption and also property tax credit. So, and the one final item also is the teacher's salary would be phased out over 3 years instead of being put in all in one scoop. So there's some great news. So, and now my hope is that if those things hold, all that extra money is going to go towards, tax relief for constituents, and we can make great use of that. So it's good news.
I agree. Just be forewarned that if they're doing something with the homestead exemption, that could actually work adversely to us getting our revenue sharing. Because what the homestead exemption typically does is allow lawmakers in Augusta to tell their constituents they did something for your property tax while ripping millions of dollars of assessable value off your local city tax rolls and not reimbursing the city and actually working adversely to us. It's a way for them to tell you they gave you property tax relief while actually keeping a bunch of money and giving it to you in a different format. So hopefully they don't do that this time, but that's how it's worked out in the past. It's pretty shady, actually. And they should be ashamed if they do it the way they've done it in the past.
Is it 5,000 they're adding, something like that? Because it was 20.
Homestead?
It was 5. Yep, so it was 20, now it's going to be 25.
They're proposing to go to 25. The key thing is the reimbursement.
It's a reimbursement rate.
It's going to go from 62.5% to 70% reimbursement for all of the 25,000, not just the additional 5. So that could be a very big number in our favor, but the mayor's exactly right.
Yeah.
When the homestead was first proposed, it was 100% reimbursement. They said to everybody, okay, we'll give you all a homestead exemption, and the state will pick up the entire loss to the community. Well, then that 100% went to 75, 50, bumped up to 62.5. That's where it is today.
But at our mill rate, $5,000 is $125. Give or take, that's for the resident.
Oh, well, not necessarily, because if we only get reimbursed for 75 out of that, then the city has to make up the lost amount somehow.
Yep.
Anyway, any other councilor updates? Great. Community notes is a time where if anybody has something they would like to say that was not on the agenda tonight, we ask you come to the podium, tell us your name, who you are, what you have to say. We ask you to keep it at 3 minutes or less. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Scott McAdoo, Ward 7. First of all, I have 2 quick things. First, I want to thank everybody who came out to help on June 1st as part of Kennebec-Meskwanaski Trails National Trail Day, the Oxbow Trail cleanup and rededication. We had a nice little ribbon cutting at 10, then we came out and cleaned the trail. I can't remember how many bags we pulled out of there, but quite a few. I also want to remind everybody that now the warmer weather, the trails are opened up. We asked, we'd love to have everybody come out and look at them. We have multiple trail systems. If anybody wants to go to kmtrails.info, there's actually, if you click on the trail, you'll scroll down, you'll see trails, click on that, and there's actually, it gives you a map of, and a quick description of all the trails we have, and it's got different updates and events. So again, that's kmtrails.info. And also, just I did believe when I was coming down here, that just a reminder that a month from today is actually the 4th of July. And Central Maine 4th of July, we're actually gearing up to, we're still finalizing a lot of stuff, but we still will be having our big events over in Clinton. We ask, invite everybody to come to celebrate our nation's birthday. I can tell you for sure, I know that we are going to have the parade again this year. We are having our fireworks again this year. And if anybody wants updates on, as we put them on our Facebook page, I encourage you to go and like our Facebook page. Just type in Central Maine 4th of July, and it will bring up the page, and just like the page, and like I said, anything, all the updates we have that we'll add. And hopefully the next council meeting, I'll be able to give some more updates on some of the entertainment and what we're going to be having this year at the park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Finch, Ward 6. I was here 2 weeks ago, or was it 3 weeks ago? It was only 2 weeks ago.
I think it was 2.
All right, I gave an update on our bike swap, the South End bike swap, and mentioned that we had 3 kids that were still missing bikes. 1 kid got a bike. Jay promised us a bike.
It's at the shop. You gotta
We
pick
do
it up.
not have a bike.
We do.
We do have a bike.
Told you I ordered it on Amazon the day you guys were there.
Yes. We have not seen the bike.
You weren't gonna pick it up?
Huh?
You said you were coming to get it.
No, you said, okay. We'll clearly have to talk.
Tomorrow. Sounds like there's a bike.
Clearly some miscommunication.
You have to ride it home. That's the deal.
I ordered it. It is yours.
So great. Now with Jay's bike, we're still down 1 26-inch bike. So if anybody else is interested in donating so a kid can have a bike for the summer, please let me know. Thanks.
You said 24-inch.
That 26 is what's left.
Okay. Oof.
Yes.
I'm like, I bought a 24-inch girl's bike.
Anybody else for community notes?
Hi, Jennifer Bergeron, again. I live in Winslow. The process of getting the licenses for the Lion's Den Tavern, I had to put a notification in the newspaper for 3 days. And when I looked at the state regulations, it says that I may have to pay the town for them to notify for 3 days. It's $268, and I don't know why, that just rubs me the wrong way. I think if anyone was actually concerned about my place in the licenses, they're unlikely to be watching the newspaper, so they'd be more likely to be watching, the meeting agenda that comes out. I don't know if there are changes that can be made, but I feel like I took $268 and threw it in a trash can. So just for the future, it might be nice to make a change to that.
You did. This is interesting, 'cause I actually followed up with Mike on that, and we were told the state said you had to advertise in the newspaper, correct?
Right. And it's a 3 consecutive day.
I looked up the
Advertisement.
state regulation, and I didn't see that it said that I had to publicize it, and I didn't see that it said it had to be the newspaper. But I could have missed that, but when I
If it
looked
doesn't,
up
we should look at it, because that is a money
online,
through your
it
pocket
didn't
for no
say
reason.
specifically the newspaper. It said it had to be publicized, and it said I might have to pay the town for that fee.
Right.
It didn't say that I specifically was going to have to do that. So I don't know. If it is a state law, then I'll be going in another direction with that, because it really
Right.
is, times have changed.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are looking at every section of the newspaper anymore. And that's a legal notice that I think is really a waste of money for a new business that's starting. And I could have used $268 for, another light fixture or another beer tap or something.
Yeah.
So it would have been a better use of that fund.
Thank you for bringing it up, and I think it warrants double checking.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Patty, can you clarify that? Do you know, Patty? Patty, is it a state?
It's regulated in state statute, yes. I can look into it further to see if there's any flexibility in maybe using the weekly circular rather than the local. It's much more expensive to go through the local newspaper than it is to go through the 2-cent Times or whatever, so I could clarify that. That could be a cost savings for sure. So, yeah, we can look into it further.
Thanks. Hello.
Kathy Weeks, Ward 1. Where we are still in budget season, number one, I wished every taxpayer was attending these budget meetings because it's been very enlightening. The council needs to adopt the term of cost reduction. I know increases happen with everything, but there's got to be cuts because the Waterville taxpayers cannot endure another tax increase. Two meetings ago, again, I thank Ward 5 and Ward 6 for speaking about the IT services. This past one, I thank the mayor for making a stand about, no, we need to review the school budget again. And it just seems like there's just a handful of you that really care about the residents who are suffering at this point. So I know we're getting near the end, but there's got to be a way for cost reduction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick Foss, Ward 5. I got your bike. Okay? Stick around after the meeting. We'll compare notes. I got your last bike.
Thank you. All right, manager's report.
You all get a copy of it with your agendas. I'm going to make sure you get a copy of this, like I said, every agenda meeting, every meeting. What I try to do with the updates is put them in bold. So as you look at this, you'll see, of course, the first item, the bill grant, something we talked about tonight. The second item, concourse redesign, we talked about tonight. Alphon Pool is the third major initiative going on. They're working like crazy there. Hopefully they can complete the slide by June 15th or towards the end of June. So even though there's no updates on that, the work is certainly ongoing. Kasangwe Square is the other one I want to bring to your attention, although it's not directly in the square. What's happening next to the square with the center building is obviously going to affect the square, and it's going to affect us at City Hall in that there will be a new connection from the new center building to City Hall. And so what's happening now is that that area between the two buildings is being surveyed. So we know exactly where the property lines are, and we can begin talking to the people at the center about how the two buildings will be connected. Of course, now they're connected by some people call it the gerbil run. The aerial walk.
Only when you're in there, Mike.
Wow.
I set myself up. Are there any other questions? Anyway, it's going to be a beautiful gerbil run when they finish, because it's going to be a two-story glassed-in connection, but a lot goes along with that. Who owns the property, how does that get transferred, and all of that stuff. So we're just starting down that road. Hedda Falls, we met last week, right, with the development group, and I'm told that tomorrow we'll receive via email a draft legal agreement that the city would have with this development group as to how we proceed forward. So that's going to be an important thing that we're going to have to work on and discuss and review and get advice from Bill Lee also. So that Hedda Falls thing is certainly still moving along. Streetlights, they haven't started work yet, but that will happen this summer. Last item, item 7, we talked about earlier. Lockwood Mills. Very good news.
Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.